this video, we will look at 3 examples of situations in which the fork trick does not work. This is important because sometimes people learn about the fork trick and then they try to use it in situations where it is actually bad. Here is one such situation. It looks like all of these pieces are on the correct squares for the fork trick to work. It looks like white could go knight takes e5. Pause your video and try to figure out why the fork trick does not work here. If white goes for the fork trick with the move knight takes e5, the big problem is that when black recaptures on e5, now the knight is making an additional threat. The knight is threatening the white bishop. So white already sacrificed one piece, the knight on e5. And if white continues with the fork, then white will lose an additional piece, the bishop on c4. Of course, black will lose the bishop on c5, but in this position we see that black is up material. Black has 3 minor pieces and white only has 2, so white lost material in this example. The easy way to see that this is not going to work is to just notice that when the black knight captures on e5, then it will be threatening the white bishop. So the fork trick does not work in this situation. Now we will look at another example where the fork trick does not work. We usually see the fork trick in e4, e5 openings. Here we have a d4, d5 opening, the queen pawn opening. And I've seen people try to do the fork trick in situations like this. This one should be pretty easy to see why it doesn't work. But pause your video and try to figure out why the fork trick does not work here. There are multiple reasons. Here, the fork trick simply fails miserably. The biggest problem for black is that although this kind of looks like the other situations, there's nothing guarding the e5 pawn when it advances. So here, it looks like we've forked the white pieces, but actually the white bishop will simply take the pawn. For this reason, the fork trick is very rarely seen in d4, d5 openings. This is something we usually see in e4, e5 openings. Now we will look at one more complicated example. This position we already looked at in the part 2 video. Here we have the Sicilian, and this is the accelerated dragon opening. So in the previous video, I castled as black, and I said, now black is threatening the fork trick. If white plays a move like castles, black will do the fork trick and get a good position. But some people may have been wondering, why did black castle? Why didn't black just do the fork trick right away? This is a complex example, but you can pause your video and try to figure out why this move does not work. What will white do? In this situation, the fork trick does not work. The main reason is that black is not castled, and this allows white to make some additional threats. So the correct response for white is to play knight takes knight and get forked. Black is able to fork white, but here white is able to move one of the attacked pieces to create another threat. If you didn't find the answer before, you should pause your video here and figure out which white piece should move to create another threat. The threat that white can make is to go bishop b5, pressuring the black knight on c6 and pinning it to the king. So here, if black recaptures the knight on e4, well, then white will go knight takes c6, winning material. For the moment, it appears like the fork trick worked. Black sacrificed the knight on e4, black got to play the forking move, and black was able to take a minor piece on the e4 square. But the problem is white's move bishop b5 created another threat, and here knight takes c6 simply wins material. Of course, if black recaptures, then after bishop takes this bishop, it just took a pawn for free, but now it's forking our king and our rook. I will back up and review this example. Here, it looks like the fork trick works, but the problem is white can use one of these attacked pieces to create another threat, bishop here, and white has created an additional threat in the position that is actually a bigger deal than the hanging knight on e4. So in this situation, the fork trick, once again, did not work.